I'm almost 40. I only exclusively date women under 26. And this might be a controversial take for the women watching. It's definitely easier here, for sure. As a Westerner.
Hi, please tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Zach Williams and I'm from the UK, and I'm also known as Coach Zach these days as well.
Coach Zach, why are you a football coach? What kind of coach?
I wish I was a football coach. I'm okay at football, but not that good. I'm a shame to the English people, sadly. No, I am a professional dating coach these days, as well as a business owner and Muay Thai fighter and various other things. So yeah, in terms of the dating market and the relationship therapy, I'm known as Coach Zach.
Is that what brought you to Thailand? Why did you come here initially?
Wow, that's a great question. Actually, initially I was living in Sweden. I had a former girlfriend at the time, and during that pandemic thing that we spoke about, we split up like many couples did, and I was looking for a new place to live. I was in Turkey for a little bit of time, and then I thought, I need a place that's, less dark, a bit more warmth, a bit more traditional in its values, good in terms of value. And a friend of mine wasn't in an amazing place, so I said, look, you pick somewhere in Southeast Asia that you think ticks all the boxes in terms of infrastructure and lifestyle and networking, and Chiang Mai and Thailand came out on top. So that's why I moved there.
Perfect. Do you have a Thai girlfriend?
I have a Myanmar girlfriend at the moment. But I'm also somebody who believes in sort of ethical non-monogamy, for lack of a better word. So for a time I've practiced kind of having multiple girlfriends. So some of them have been Thai, some of them have been Myanmar, some of them have been Japanese who were over. So yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay, so how did you get into coaching? Like, what qualifies you aside from your good looks?
Thank you very much. Very kind. You're a good-looking man yourself. Well, I'm qualified in intersexual dynamics and social psychology from many, many years ago. So I have a diploma in that. And basically about 20 years ago, I was very into the sort of pickup artistry scene. It was big at the time, the sort of RSDs and the mystery method, the game, the book. Everyone was into that kind of thing. So when I had a break from my music career at the time, I sort of fell into that and thought, if I'm going to learn something, knowing everything about sort of sex and picking up women is not a terrible subject to know about as a guy. So, that's what I kind of veered into. And I did a little bit of coaching in terms of taking groups of guys out to clubs and showing them, nightclub game and text game, or even in supermarkets or out on the street, day game. And, one of the things I kind of noticed, especially sort of speaking to other people in that scene, like people like Julian Blunt, who's had a bad reputation these days, I found they were very obsessed with kind of, let's get women into bed and let's do this kind of thing, and some of the negative aspects that fairly or unfairly get thrown at that scene. But for me, I sometimes found that a bit vacuous, and I wanted it to be a more holistic approach. So it was the kind of relationship element as well. Like, I genuinely want to get great results for men and for women in terms of, yeah, sure, the fun things, if that's what you're looking for, and having the confidence and understanding how to do that, but also build those long-term connections and relationships if that's what you want as well. So it kind of evolved from there. And as time has gone on with different businesses and lots of marketing and sales, it's kind of applying some of those principles to individuals. And now with the rise of kind of the red pill and how divisive everything seems on the left and the right, men and women, it was sort of going, I think there's a need for people to really understand the deep biological aspects and differences between men and women, which haven't really changed. Our society has, but those things haven't changed, so that they can understand each other better, not have so much of the arguments or wondering why person A does this and person B does this, and instead work together to have a much better future.
Okay, do you think you'd be as successful if you're back in the UK, or do you think it's just Asian?
With women or for business?
With women, I'm curious.
Well, I mean, I actually, after I was monogamous in my long-term relationship in Sweden, but post that, I really dove back into it and thought, okay, can I also, practice what I preach in terms of this dating stuff? And I spent about 2 years or so living in hotels and various other things and traveling around to all different kinds of countries and the UK, picking up women. And basically I'm almost 40. I only exclusively date women under 26 and who are, let's say 7 to 10, should we say, in terms of looks and things, not to be, crude about the scale. And yeah, I still do it very successfully in the UK. I'm not a tall guy either, so I have the short king perspective. And, yeah, I do it well. But saying that, for your, international audience, and people particularly looking at Southeast Asia, it's definitely easier here for sure. As a Westerner, providing you have sort of confidence and you know how to interact and you know how to have your profiles on point, you're definitely going to get easier results than perhaps in the Western countries like the US or the UK, which have become, a certain amount of heavy propaganda from the sort of ultra feminist rhetoric, which has its place. But also has a lot of really harmful, damaging information that again goes against the core biology that doesn't favor men or women for that matter.
Okay. What do you think is a common mistake your clients or any man coming to Thailand or Asia make when they're trying to date a woman here? What is the big mistake they actually make?
Mistakes when there's a twofold answer to this. One is buying into the stereotype that these people are only after your money as a Westerner. That is a factor, but it's a factor kind of everywhere to some extent, which we can kind of touch on. But yeah, assuming that that's the only reason, that's not the case. One of the really great benefits in actually most of Southeast Asia, in my experience, is that there is a much greater emphasis on family and on tradition. And sure, you may be expected to adhere more to your traditional gender roles. So the guy is expected to provide and protect. But again, that aligns with what most women all around the world want. Whatever they say they want, however boss babe they may be, they still want that and would pick it as an ideal option. So yeah, one thing is misunderstanding the motives and thinking it's just about money. It's not. And the other mistake is really just trying to overly flash the cash. So on the other end of that spectrum, just going, well, because I have some money comparatively, that should be everything I need, right? And no, it's not, because they're now used to a certain amount of foreign people. They have those aspects. They definitely have a preference for it, in my experience. But just flashing cash isn't going to do it. In fact, that's the best way to have somebody take it from you. Having a sense of strong frame, understanding your value, not compromising on that, understanding like, no, I'm not going to abide by any kind of drama or anything or attention seeking that you may do. I'm a strong man, I'm a fair man, and kind about that. You treat me well, I will treat you well, and we'll have a great time together, whatever the goal may be.
Sounds fantastic. I know a lot of us have like ideas of why a lot of men come here for traditional type of women, let's say. But what has been your experience dating in the West compared to either Thailand or Asia? Are there actual differences in women?
There's definitely differences in women, yeah. And yes, guys come here to date for many reasons. I mean, there's even the passport bros movement now, which is gaining traction, and that leads on to the differences between the West and the Asian women. Again, not to be sort of too controversial on some of these topics, there are some very polarizing figures in the space. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of the higher education institutions, a lot of the media, for a wider purpose, I'm going to say, it suits their interests financially and in terms of consumer purchases and the debt that women accrue. All of these things are factual information, as unpopular as it may be sometimes to sound, or to say. They push the narrative of, hey, the thing that's going to bring you the greatest happiness as a woman is to have a career and to, be a boss babe and to be ultra masculine and to earn your money. And the reality is that's simply not the case. The biology, our evolutionary biology, is, like I say, much the same. So women, it's perfectly great for you to have a career, if you have a passion. I think that's awesome. I think people should have equality of opportunity. But studies will show you that, generally speaking, depending on which ones you look at, but the majority of them will show you that women are happiest, typically speaking, being in a traditional relationship where the guy is the provider. They tend to be more in the home space and prioritizing him if he's the right person for them and a well-chosen mate, and for children. And that supersedes anything else about a career and anything, all those kind of things. And the other aspect is, and this might be a controversial take for the women watching, men do not care about any of that stuff at all. So all of those things that you've been led to believe, your career, your money, how driven you are, all of these kind of things, your intellect to some extent, your accolades, great for you. Awesome. Do it if you're passionate about it. Men don't care about it at all. So they want a person who is, feminine, who's friendly, who is attractive, youthful, plays a part. faithful, so exclusive. You know, we have I think I saw the other day, like a $6.6 billion, payout on, OF, if we can say that. And, you know, there's a lot of simp men out there, sure, I think we shouldn't say. And, yeah, again, great for women in terms of earning money, perhaps not great in terms of long-term relationships and those kind of things. And social media have made it very, very difficult for women to get the kind of relationships and commitment they want, and very difficult for lots of men, or the majority of men, to get any interest from women compared to a very small group percentage that they are pretty much exclusively chasing. So those problems are very, very prevalent now in the West, in my experience. The UK, the US, Canada to some extent, you know, Europe, a little bit different, but similar. So you have to be, different in the way you approach that. You have to be a little bit of touch gloves. If I, you know, did a top G thing and was overtly, just saying, well, women, this, I probably wouldn't get that much results, even though they like a strong guy with assertive opinions. So you have to be a little bit more measured and play the game to a certain extent. But again, they still want the guy to be in charge. They still want, no matter how much they say, I like to be a boss and I like this, they want the guy to lead. So having a strong set of ethics and sticking to them is great. In terms of the Asian market, and particularly here in Thailand, yeah, again, they're more traditional in their views, and they are more submissive on the whole. You have it seeping in a little bit. I've noticed it coming in and thinking, oh, God, please don't come here with that stuff. But generally speaking, they are more traditional in terms of those attributes that we are looking for. And I think they're just more keen to make a man happy, which is why so many men are coming here. Because if you've had, you know, constant rejection, or you're, you know, the average guy, you're not 6 foot, you're not particularly wealthy, you're not particularly good looking, you're not particularly confident, whatever it might be. You know, I've had friends go on Tinder and me going, you know, thousands of matches all the time. I can get like, you know, hundreds in a day, easy, no problem, Bumble, whatever ones you want to use. And they're going, oh, well, this should be fine. And they're getting like 2. And then the conversation is super dry. And, you know, some of that might be to do with their skills and their profiles and obviously photos and things. And we can help with that. That's one thing I do in my practice. But obviously it's also a case of this dynamic change where they're starting to go, hey, you know, I've got all of these options on social media. I've got hundreds of guys messaging me and DMing me every day. So, you know, instead of sticking with somebody who seems really good, I'm just going to shift up. I'm just going to change. I'm just going to change. I'm just going to change. And that's very difficult for most men to compete against. And it's very damaging for women because they often confuse the sexual attention that they're getting, the purpose that those guys are messaging them for, versus the romantic intention and the commitment that they really ultimately want. Again, no matter how much I've heard some women say, no, I can totally go out and sleep with people. I'm just in my hot girl phase. I'm on my whatever rubbish it is. It's nonsense. In my experience, most women still ultimately want a relationship. They want a singular best mate. They kind of have a general evolutionary proclivity towards monogamy rather than men being more polygamous and wanting multiple women naturally, and as hard as that may be to accept. And so, yeah, that's what they're ultimately looking for. And social media and these things are making that very, very difficult to have happen. So here, I think you have a better chance. And if you've definitely struggled in the West, you know, travel is cheaper than ever. Book in advance, get your passport bros, come here, not just for the idea of, hey, I can, you know, get more women into bed, or, you know, I can do this, but, you know, to make meaningful relationships and connections, which I think is the best outcome, or even the statistically best outcome, for both men and women.
I like what you said earlier regarding simps, right?
Yeah.
So, according to you, what is a simp? So for those older guys or myself, anyone that doesn't know what a simp is,
yeah,
simp.
Yeah. So it's a term used in this scene, and particularly the dating or these manosphere things, or actually, I mean, also in female content. I try whenever I look at external content other than writing my own, I try and have a very balanced view, and I think that's one of the difference makers between me and maybe, you know, some other things out in the market. Like, I genuinely want women and men to have the best outcomes. And I coach women as well as men, which again, a lot of them, you know, don't really focus on. But in terms of what a simp is, this is a guy who basically, pays or thinks paying is going to get him laid, is going to get him better attention, or not just monetarily, but he pays forward compliments and attention and all of these things without any reciprocation or minimal reciprocation from women who frankly do not respect him. And it's actually a miscommunication, because they think, and they've been told, like, okay, women like provision traits, so they like money, right? And, you know, there's a very controversial take somebody said before, which was like, oh, women are gold diggers, they're just, some are better at hiding the shovel. I think that's a bit strong worded, and it's not necessarily the case at all. They do want provision ability, that's part of their evolutionary biology, but it's not necessarily gold digging. So these guys get confused and they go, well, I'm giving money, and if I give, you know, if I subscribe to their a thing online, or if I buy them loads of drinks, or I go out and pay for really expensive dinners and trips, they should like me. You know, and yeah, they might help. But the problem is a guy who just constantly gives and is a sucker. Women are not attracted to that. That's actually the big shift that they don't realize. A lot of women do what we call, you know, SHIT testing. And it's very much a test of, can I manipulate this man? How strong is this man in his principles and his frame and his way forward? Can I trust him as a leader not to be swayed by the next pretty girl or the next thing that comes along? You know, so they're testing you all the time. And a huge amount of the conversation is testing, you know, and playing back, and the way they attention, and even the sort of drama that sometimes comes along with it. That's all a test all the time to see how you handle it. And if you react badly and you go, oh, well, you're being like this and you're being like this, you failed. It's a case of, okay, why are you doing that? What's wrong? You know, what can I help you with? What's the actual issue here? Oh, well, it's this and this. Okay. And does that make it okay for you to shout at me, or is that something else that we can deal with? Oh, well, okay. Well, why do you feel that way? You know, like, ask the questions and be unmoved in your emotional state. Okay, I want to help you. I want you to feel happy. I want us to have a great time together. How do we make that happen? What do you feel? Okay. And again, also, which might not be popular these days, keeping the mindset of you are the guy ultimately. And as unpopular and, you know, egalitarian as we all say we want everything to be, they want you to lead. They want to be able to respect you. And unless you do that, they cannot respect you. Yeah. So it's a case of, great, I understand what you said. I've listened to that. We're not doing that. We're doing this because of these reasons. Let's go. Or, you know, sometimes you don't even need to verbalize. It's like, okay, that's great. Yeah. Come here. Let's take my hand. Let's go. You know, so it's a simp is the antithesis of anything of that. It's a guy who just gives and gives and gives, pretty much without reciprocation, thinking that he can buy his way in, being a sucker, and women are just going to disrespect you, manipulate you, take what you have, and thanks very much. Thanks for that free drink. I'm off to my friends again now. Bye. You know, and that, yeah.
Okay, well, my own observation in the past, like, less than 10 years, because I date as well, right?
Yeah.
And, I feel like I'm a confident guy, and I date, but I've noticed this, like, shift in access to women by simps, let's say, right? So, back in the day, I feel like for a man to talk to a woman, it took game. That they're confident, looking for somebody, but now with the rise of social media, anyone can send any message.
Yeah.
Do you think this to women's perception of men in general? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that men fall in love with what they see, which is why the makeup industry is $1 billion industry, and so is cosmetic surgery, and you have filters and all this stuff. Men fall in love with what they see, and women fall in love with what they hear, or in our case with, you know, apps that you swipe, and Instagram, which is essentially a dating site. I don't care what any women say. They fall in love with what they hear or they read. So yeah, I think it does make a difference. You have men who are perhaps not, you know, as competitive in the market. They're not the guy who is the Chad, which is another term that gets popularized in the news. You know, they're not 6 foot. They're not making loads of money. They're not, you know, super handsome or grey in bed or confident or whatever else it might be. But they can lie about it. So, you know, so in order to maintain that competitive edge, they're going to go, well, I'm going to say this. And, that's going to hopefully get me in. And to a certain extent, because of the fact that women are just inundated by messages all the time. You know, you think that your girlfriend that you're with isn't getting messaged. I'm afraid to say most of the time you're wrong, which is why I advocate once people are in relationships that, again, as unpopular as it is, and it's shared by some red pill content makers that I'm not a fan of, but I do think they're right here. You should not have an open Instagram. You should not have open social media. You should not be entertaining messages. You should not be responding or liking or anything like that at all, because women have a monopoly on attention from men. Men are constantly driven to seek as many women as possible. That's our biology, to ensure reproductive success and status building and various other things. So women are inundated with all of these things. Men are not. They've done studies where they've taken a very average looking woman and put her on Tinder, the profile, and she gets 800 matches in an hour if she's on the, unlimited plans or whatever. Whereas they put like a very attractive man, like a 9 or a 10 male model, super, all this stuff. And he's getting like a fraction of that. So again, with the ability to DM anybody, online, it's definitely made it more challenging. I think that's fair to say. It's definitely made it more challenging for the average guy, and a guy who doesn't know how to speak, which is why you should, hire me and learn how to do all those things, of course, on coachstack.com. But it's made it difficult. But it's not impossible. Understanding how to play the game and understanding that attraction is not a choice. It's a subconscious process. So yes, being taller, yes, being better looking, being richer, all of these things will definitely help you, but they're not the be all and end all. And, going back to the pickup days, you can pick up a girl in, beach shorts looking like crap. If you exude confidence, if you surround yourself with the right people, there's an element of pre-selection. There's an element of mystique. So why is this guy super confident? He doesn't look great. There must be something, or he's utterly delusional, but, at least I'm going to find out. I'm intrigued by this. And that's something that you can teach. But it is difficult when there's this wall between you and them, or social media or apps now, where they're just, inundated left, right and center. And it's certainly very difficult for the average guy to go through and find they're getting like a few matches, maybe not the ones they want. And then the conversation is super dry and they're saying 3 things, and, women are terrible at game because they never actually have to approach, really. Yeah, exactly. Because they're the ones who get approached. They market. Women are marketers. They market themselves for attraction. Men are they're sort of direct salesmen and approaching. So, it's definitely has its difficulties. I think social media and dating apps have made dating very difficult, as well as the access to men from all around the world. I mean, we in some way benefit from that, as traveling, to different places, but that has made it more difficult and more competitive. But again, there are ways around it for sure.
You mentioned something about your coaching site and how you teach people. Let me know a little bit about that. What do you help men with?
Yeah, so we're actually redeveloping the site at the moment to add a whole bunch of content. There's going to be a course. There might even be events in Thailand at some point, sort of to come out and do game and learn. But it's more than just picking up women, getting them into bed, which I was sort of actively against in some of the old groups that did that. It's really about building a life. So it's about grooming. It's about how you smell. It's about the way you speak, the speech, the way that you do the tonality of your voice, the speed at which you speak. All of those things make a difference. But it's, again, I think one of the biggest differences in my approach is that I approach it very, very scientifically. And I'm very direct as well. I mean, I'm being polite for YouTube, but I'm a very no-nonsense coach. So if you suck at this, I'm going to tell you that you suck at this and you need to change this, because that typically works better for men. For women, I'm not going to approach it in quite the same way. For those who come with coaching, it's about understanding even more in a slightly softer approach. But yeah, I approach it from a scientific perspective. So I look at the evolutionary biology. I look at my background in intersexual dynamics. I look at the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments and things I've seen, and I've maybe coached close to, 200 people. So, I look at all of that information, my own anecdotal experience, as well as studies and things. And I go, not what do people say, but what actually gets results. What can I statistically demonstrate? Okay, I know that, for example, an unpopular topic, Dave Grohl the other day, he cheated on his wife, he has had a kid, something like that. And I had some conversations with some clients and some comments about that, and saying, okay, he's evil because of this. And I sort of said, he's not really evil because he's a very high status man. I don't agree with cheating in any way. I think the dishonesty is bad. I think you should position yourself and be in a place as a man where you can be honest and you can say, yes, if you're so inclined, I may want other women. And it's completely different between men and women. I think that's the difference that people don't understand. It's a case of, again, it comes from our evolutionary biology. Men are designed to have multiple partners. We're designed to a certain amount of proclivity towards polygamy. When we have sex, we release testosterone. It makes us protective. It makes us, territorial, but it doesn't pair bond us emotionally unless we're deeply in love in the same way that it does for women. They release oxytocin, which does that because they are designed to find a one singular best mate. Try and find as many ways to disqualify him as possible, which is why men have a tough time. We're trying to qualify women. They're trying to, disqualify us at every opportunity. What's wrong with him? So they can pick the best thing. And then, and then stick with it, basically retain him for that protection, provision and procreation. Men, we're like, we need to spread our seed. We need to do this thing as much as possible. If we choose to be monogamous, it's a choice. It's not really reflective of our biology, and there's religious aspects and all kinds of things around that. And I think that can be great, actually. But it's not the biology. So I approach it as saying, okay, I understand that men want this. I understand that women want this. They want the guy to provide and protect. They want all these things. And again, we spoke before about, women's careers and money. And when I speak to them about this, if I think about a female friend of mine who I was coaching, she said, well, I'm on my game. My life is charged. I have a house. I have my money. I have my job. Yeah, men don't care about any of that stuff at all. At all. Does that make you, well, I'm a bit picky now. Ah, okay. Is that your problem where you can't find the guy? Oh, and you're a bit argumentative. Do you find that? Well, I should be because I should have this. Right. Men don't want any of that though. So you have to face the reality for women that as you age, as unfair as it may be, your market value to men at least goes down. Not your market value to you. That's great. But to men, it's lower. Men prioritize youth and fertility and all these things. And that's how they are hardwired. It's not us being horrible and malicious or, we only want young girls or whatever. No, it's our biology. So we are drawn to those things just in the same way that most women are typically drawn to an older man, not because they want, wrinkles or whatever. It's because that guy is in a better position to provide, protect, be more assured in his position and his views, to lead competently and, not be maybe as driven by every single girl walking around. So it's about applying all of these kind of scientific principles. It's about applying that in the way that your body language is when you approach women. If I come over here with my drink and I sort of go like this and I look at them for half an hour over the bar, thinking that they haven't seen this, when women are extremely good at intuitive signals, and I eventually pick up the courage to go over like this with my closed body language and don't look at them and go, hey, let me buy you a drink. And she goes, thanks, loser, and then walks away or just dismisses you outright really rudely. It's not that they are horrible. It's the fact that the better looking they are, they're getting this all day, every day, online, everywhere else, everywhere they go. And you've just basically gone, hey, I don't have any confidence whatsoever to approach you. When I finally do, you already knew about it and you're bored and it shows that, so you're already turned off. I'm then going to come with my shielded body language because I'm really guarded and insecure. And because I have nothing to offer you whatsoever, I like to think I can buy you. Is that okay? And needless to say, that has a very negative reaction. Whereas, again, whether you are tall or short or whatever it is, if you go up and she's exceptionally beautiful, the more beautiful the better, and you go, hey, you know what? I know you're gay. And then you just turn away and they're like, what does that mean? And then they engage conversation. It doesn't really matter what you say. It could be like, I like salad. Whatever it is, you can get much better results in that way. And it's the same with messaging. So many guys are like, hi, what are you doing? This. And then they wonder why they get bad responses on their already very narrow percentage if they're not, super great as a guy. Whereas if you're like, hey, let's cut the BS. Tell me how adventurous you are. They're like, oh, well, I do dirt bike riding. Awesome. Let's do it together. What's your number? Like, it's two messages and you have the number. Like, this should only be an introduction in terms of those apps and things. So yeah, that's some of the things I teach.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'll be sure to put all your contact information in the description and videos to follow you. Anything else you want to say on digital marketing?
Yeah, so I have a digital marketing agency called For the Bold. You can go to it, forthebold.agency. As well, we've helped massive brands like McDonald's and tech companies like Better Proposals, which I used to be a team member of from the start. All of these kind of clients. So in terms of sales, marketing, developing your business, making that stronger, which I I also advocate for men as well as, getting your finance on point by owning your own business, not being beholden to somebody else. And you can travel like Alex and myself and go wherever you wish. That's a great thing with flexibility. So for the Bold.agency, I will be happy with my team to help you with anything marketing, digital media related. And then in terms of my dating consultancy, it's CoachZach.com. We will have a much bigger site for everything from, grooming, confidence coaching, fashion, fitness, all these things coming. But for now, you can at least book a one-to-one call with me, on CoachZach.com. And, I have some new music coming out as well in the future, for the first time in 10 years. So you can also search for Zach Zander at some point in the future. I've taken a break from social media for the last few years, so there's nothing exciting on there for you to find, sadly, but you can find me on Instagram at Zach_Zander if you want to send a message, if you can't book a call straight away. So it's all on there.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's awesome to meet you as well.
Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of Zach's interview. And if you're curious about dating or some marketing, I've left his links in the description down below. Go ahead and check that out. And that's it for this video. If you guys are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.